You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, hello, hello out there in podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction movies and those key elements that lift them above the average genre fare and into what we like to call the stratosphere. I'm here with my good friend David Horton. Hey, David, how's it going?
Hey, Tim, how are you? Look, I'm visual. Ooh.
I can see you are in the Johnny Has the Keys graveyard.
I am. I'm just hanging out here. You know, it's my comfort zone.
Oh, nice.
Zombies and robots in the background.
Seems like it should be flipped. Okay.
Well, I'll lean this way so you just see Robbie the robot.
There you
go. That's me. And then this would be you.
Yeah, that's my zombie over there.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. For all you viewers out there in Keyland, my computer's a little unsophisticated, meaning old, and I cannot do a virtual background that's cool like David yet. So that's why I don't have
one. All coming. Yeah, and for those of you just listening to us, thank you for just listening to us. You don't have to see us. As a matter of fact, parts of me, hope you don't. But but thank you for listening to us. You can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll put the censored thing up there. Censored.
Yeah, definitely.
So how's it been going? What's been going on in your genre week?
In my genre week,
this past 7 days.
Haven't done a lot, but still working on some theater projects and some writing and stuff. But I guess the only genre real thing I did was I did watch a series called Lock and Key.
Oh, that's King's Son.
Yes,
Joe
and
Hill.
It's based on a comic book, I think, not a novel. It's based on a comic book. After I ended up watching it, then I did some research on it, just seeing what other people thought or what reviewers thought, or and everything else. And I can kind of agree with them that it was potential, but had some issues, kind of thing. It started out great. The first couple of episodes were really good. Then it just turned into like a YA kind of teen drama thing that supposedly is not in the comic books. The comic books are supposedly a lot darker and bloodier and everything else, but they just play up the teen angst and we're going to take our magic spells to school thing and all that, and just didn't work.
Riverdale.
Yeah, and then the last 3 episodes are just so interminably slow and predictable and not very good. So I wasn't really impressed with it. I did hear it got renewed, so it'll have a second season. Yeah, but I wasn't very impressed. I would love to hear other people's opinions, though. So if you guys have watched it or you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Just see what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting premise. I mean, I love the whole thought of it. So I may have to dig into the comic book, even though I'm not a comic book reader, and see, because I like Joe Hill. I think he's got a lot of dad's DNA in him. So,
yeah. Well, I have actually multiple things, but I'm only gonna probably dwell on one. One is that my zombie book is selling really well.
Woo-hoo,
People
yes.
like it. For anyone out there that would like to or is curious about it, it is called The Dead Next Door. It is the first of a series of books called Will to Live. It's available on Amazon. I've also tuned in
today. Yes.
Yeah. I tuned into a Brazilian remake of a British zombie series that came out 10 years ago it's called Reality Z, but it's based on a show called Dead Set, which was created by the guy that's behind Black Mirror.
Okay.
In the British version, it's the Big Brother set. The people that are in the Big Brother show, including the real host of that show, are safe somewhat because of the zombie apocalypse. They're locked in. And this show is set in Rio de Janeiro, and it is pretty funny because I'm watching it with subtitles, and clearly the American dubbing does not even match what the subtitles say sometimes. And it's a similar premise, very similar. Everything is very similar, except the show instead of Big Brother is called Olympus, and they're all dressed like Greek gods, and Zeus is the one that, casts them out when they're voted out by their peers or what. It's really stupid. Anyway, there's that. But the thing I really wanted to talk about that I think you will find interesting is I have been reading Stephen King's latest novel. Actually, it's a collection of novellas called Let It Bleed. No, If It Bleeds.
Okay.
And the main novella, the longest story in there, is titled If It Bleeds, and it features Holly Gibney from The Outside.
Really? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And
I like Miss Holly.
I finished that yesterday, and it blew me away. It is so good that you just want them to make a show of it too. For those of you that don't know, Holly Gibney originated in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, but then she was also in a book called The Outsider that HBO made into a series that David and I watched and did, I think, a subsequent little podcast for Patreon about.
Yep.
That is just phenomenally good. And now Holly has found another one. This one deals with there's more than one of those outsider creatures.
Oh, really?
And this one's been around a long time. She gets a lot of history on it. And it's also got some of the other characters from the Mr. Murder books that you may not remember. They're not a part of the series, The Outsider. But anyway, I highly recommend it. I mean, I could highly recommend most things Stephen King writes, but he's just so damn satisfying. The damn book could have ended 3 times, but then he would do another chapter, and I was like, oh, okay, I see why he did that. Oh, okay, I see why he did that. It's just like that. So
that is interesting.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I may have to jump into that and read that. That would be good. Of course, I haven't read Mr. Mercedes, so maybe I should start
You don't
there.
have to. As long as you've seen The Outsider, you'll know what's going on.
Oh, okay. And it's novellas, not a full novel?
No, it's 4 novellas. I can't remember what the first one was about off the top of my head. The second one is very surrealistic and strange, and I haven't read the last one yet.
Interesting. You know, it's in. You talked about your, your Reality Z series or show. I actually read something that, like, they had started filming the British Big Brother when COVID hit.
Oh.
And then they were trying to explain to them what was going on outside in the world beyond them.
That's hilarious.
And I imagine, people getting kicked out of the house or whatever going, what is going? It would be like, Rick in Walking Dead coming out of the hospital or whatever.
Everybody with masks on.
Yeah, everybody with masks
or nobody.
Nobody. Everything locked down and all that. It'd be like, what? Is this really a movie? So.
Yeah, like that time I walked, I think I posted a video on our website of me walking around a shopping mall and there was nobody in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like Dawn of the Dead.
Well, and that's one of my favorite, like, situations in The Stand is Stu in the hospital, in the research hospital, I guess. And I can't remember where it was. I think it was like, he ends up in New York. Anyway.
No, he ends up in Texas. He runs, he's at the gas station that car crashes into at the very beginning of the novel.
Right, but they transfer him to whatever this facility is.
To some facility underground or something, yeah.
Right, and then he has to escape at the end and everything. I mean, that's a really great sequence. That's a good story.
And we'll get to enjoy it again soon if you have CBS All Access. It's coming this fall.
Another Stand. I actually read something about some of the casting that they're doing, and I was going, okay, it sounds interesting. I'm not sure about Whoopi, but we'll see.
Oh, I could see her doing it. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
James Marsden is playing Stu.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
that's a pretty good choice, I think.
I think so too. He's in that show Dead to Me I've been watching, and I like him in that as well.
Well, and he's the one he's in Westworld.
Right.
So, you know.
Oh my God,
although his character in Westworld is
we're on a genre carousel. Pick your topic.
round and round.
Books, TV, movies.
But well, okay. Well, since we should do a podcast, you know, we're since that's why most people are listening to it.
That wasn't me farting, I promise.
So we are today in the sci-fi world. You know, fairly traditional storytelling sci-fi in that it's a time travel story.
Mm-hmm.
We are covering a movie from 2012 by Rian Johnson called Looper. For those of you who haven't seen it, we'll give you a little brief synopsis, and then there will be spoilers. So you might want to stop there and go watch it. Or if you've seen it, then just, you know, plow on ahead and join us.
Yeah, I mean, they are 8-year-old spoilers, so.
Correct. So should have seen it by now, sort of thing. Especially after the Star Wars debacle that happened, and everybody had Rian Johnson on their brain.
Yeah, I have questions about him.
Can't wait.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about just about Rian Johnson in general, because you mentioned him to me the other day, and I was like, I don't really know much about this guy.
Right.
So.
Well, and I know some, so I can share a little bit, I think. Okay. But basically, the film flips between, naturally, it's a time travel story, 2 different times. The present, I'm assuming around 2012, and 2074, when at that time in the future, it's 74 and then 30 years earlier. So 34 in that.
I think it's 34 and 74.
Yeah, that's it.
I think so.
Those are the 2 time frames. And basically...
But it's 2034 and 2074, yes. Yeah.
Basically, in the far future, 2074, criminals... time travel is outlawed, essentially, and very fearful to most people. And it's only used by criminals. And criminals use it to dispose of their bodies. So they will take someone that they want to get rid of, and basically what they do is they send them into the past where they are murdered by assassins called loopers. And that way the looper in the past gets rid of the body, and that kind of closes the loop on the person and essentially ends their lives. And the failed kind of premise, I think, in this one of that's the only way we can dispose of bodies because there's tracking technology. That's kind of odd, but anyway, we'll get to that. Our story basically concerns Joe, who suddenly discovers that his future self has been sent back, which happens occasionally to loopers. It's a way of closing the assassin's loop as well, and basically they know they have 30 years to celebrate, and then they're going to be gone, sort of thing. But in this particular one, the Joe of the future escapes. And so Joe in the present has to try to hunt him because Joe of the future is wanting to change history and save his then future wife by changing time and killing someone called the Rain Man before they're can rain terror down on the future. Is that pretty much it? I mean, to you, does that explain it enough?
Yes, absolutely. It's a little... It's an elevated concept that, like most sci-fi that's time travel related, invites questions and has plenty of paradoxes, I guess you would say.
Yes. Has a lot of paradoxes. And it also has paradoxes in just the storytelling, just in the way he's structured the story.
Right. I liked the movie. I did not dislike the movie. It is not my favorite Bruce Willis time travel movie. I can say that.
Mm-hmm. What would that be, Tim?
That would be 12 Monkeys.
12
I love
Monkeys.
that movie.
Yes.
Absolutely love that movie. Wouldn't mind covering that on this podcast at all. And that was written by a husband-wife team too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also saw Bruce Willis last season in The Fifth Element, which was a fun movie. Even though Bruce was in this movie, though, there was something, I don't know. He didn't make the movie for me. I did like, what's his face? Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think he's great. I've never really seen him in anything except Third Rock from the Sun.
Really?
Well, I mean, I know he was in the Dark Knight movies, but I don't remember them because it's been so long since I saw them.
Okay. But yeah, he's really good in Inception. If you haven't seen Inception, which is another freaky kind of sci-fi movie, he's really good in that.
Okay.
And he's in the sequel to Sin City, and he's really good in that as well.
I don't think I've seen either one of those movies.
Oh, Sin City's great. Sin City is really good. It's Rodriguez. It's good.
Okay.
And supposedly he's in Rian Johnson's new one too. So he's evidently a Rian Johnson favorite.
Okay. Now that we're talking about him, who is Rian Johnson and why is he so hot?
Rian Johnson is a dick, but no. Rian Johnson, I think, if I put on my Star Wars fandom hat, I have to say Rian Johnson came very close to destroying the Star Wars mythology.
Wow, that's a major claim.
Yeah, and those of you who have seen The Last Jedi being the second in a trilogy, odd title, but it was all Rian Johnson, the entire thing, and several people who have, are huge Star Wars fans agree with me that it was just a terrible, terrible film. He basically got the clout from Disney. He got the okay from J.J. Abrams, who really liked Looper, and thought, wow, this guy could do some really cool stuff with Star Wars, maybe. Let's give him a multi-billion-dollar franchise and see what he does to it. And here's my script points, because, J.J. essentially rebooted Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Hired by Disney. He had rebooted Star Trek already, although in a very failed way. But
well, some of those movies are terrible.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. One in particular. Yeah.
So Kathleen Kennedy came to him and said, hey, Disney now owns Star Wars. We want to reboot it. JJ, what idea? So JJ basically did The Force Awakens, which is, episode 4, A New Hope Light. It's just same story again, but let's cross-gender it and put a girl instead of Luke.
Right.
She's a farm girl on a farm town, desert town, and she has to fight an evil that is Kylo Ren, that is Darth Vader, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but he had plotted out 3 movies because Disney wanted to do a trilogy. So he plotted them all out. Well, they decided that they wanted a different import on each movie, so we'll have a different director for each movie. So they lined up Rian Johnson for number 2, and they lined up, I forgot his name, but for the 3rd one. That would basically end the 9-film Star Wars saga. And everything from what JJ started in Force Awakens would build up to that. Okay, so turn it over to Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson essentially took the script, totally changed it, rewrote it, said, I'm doing it my way, I don't care. And all of these things that have been set up in Force Awakens, he literally killed characters, eliminated plot points, ignored 6 movies. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies of Star Wars history and said, I'm going to do it my way. I don't care. And just, it's a terrible, terrible movie. So much so that
I think Mark Hamill doesn't even like it, right?
Oh, no. Yeah. Mark Hamill doesn't like it. So much so that then Disney had to come back and go, okay, Rian, not going to do another movie with us. Thank you so much. And JJ, can you help? And they had to hire JJ again to do the final movie and kind of fix things as much as he could, but even it sucked it. So I'm not a big fan of Rian Johnson. However,
I mean, why didn't they just freeze it and re-edit it?
No, you don't understand. He took entire characters and just changed their entire arc. It would be like we were just talking about Stu Redman. In the middle of the book, Stu Redman just dies. He's just killed. and or Stu Redman suddenly turns into, the villain of the piece, and Flag dies.
Yeah, I'm just kind of confused. I mean, directors get fired. Why didn't he get fired? And who approved the script if he rewrote it?
He had total script authority for it. It was part of the whole contractual thing. So he rewrote it, changed. I mean, it was just a terrible, terrible version. And ironically, though, prior to that, the only real experience I had had with Rian Johnson, or only real thing with him, had been Looper, which I like. I don't think it's perfect by any means.
No, it's not a bad movie.
But it's not a bad movie. And even Johnson, when you watch him, he is so arrogant in the way he mentions stuff and does stuff. He's just, I don't think he's a really good guy in general. I think he's a competent director based on the two movies, but even this one, as much as I think it's a pretty good movie, still has huge time travel issues.
It sounds like in his head he's James Cameron, but I don't see the clout to even warrant that.
Yep, I totally agree with you. Yeah, and not that he's from what I understand, he's not Cameron on set bad. He's just got his own delusional thoughts of what he wants to do.
Right. For those of y'all that don't know, he also did the movie Knives Out, which I have not seen yet.
I've heard really good things about it, though.
Yeah, Dennis actually mentioned watching it last night, but we didn't. I guess it's on Amazon now or something.
Yeah, it's out now, and they've already, greenlit the sequel. And supposedly it works because of, one of the things that he added to, which is ironic, we're talking about Looper, which doesn't have any of this, by the way, but one of the things that he added to supposedly other scripts that he has doctored and or The Last Jedi was humor. Lots of humor and fun to the proceedings, which Knives Out supposedly has. It's a murder mystery in that typical British murder mystery vein, but there's a lot of humor in it. Great cast too. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis and Daniel Craig, a bunch of people in that.
Isn't Johnny Depp in it too?
I can't remember. He might be, but Jamie Lee is in it. Captain America's in it.
Chris Evans, yeah.
Chris Evans, yeah. But in this movie, going back to Looper.
Okay.
I think this definitely, Rian Johnson can take credit for everything in this because he wrote it, he directed it. He had, obviously handled the casting. It's basically his film, so any issues, good or bad, in this, he should take responsibility for it. To your casting thing, I think Bruce is good in this. I think it would be very difficult. I couldn't imagine somebody else doing some of the things that this character does, not being Bruce Willis and getting away with it. The child murder, the angst and the pathos that he has to do. Willis does that really well, and has always been able to play that sort of guilt drama really well. Armageddon, he does it. In this movie, he does it. So he's always been really good at that. I thought Gordon-Levitt is really good in this. Like I said, I think everybody who watches this movie is thrown off in the first 15 minutes. If you know Joseph Gordon-Levitt and then see his face in this, you go, what? And it's because they did such incredible makeup on him. None of that is CGI. All of that is practical makeup.
Yeah, and as far as his performance, I mean, he studied Bruce Willis in old Bruce Willis movies, and he has those gestures and deliveries down. I mean, I was shocked at how much he reminded me of Bruce Willis when he was acting. Like
the scenes with, is it Abe? Is that the bad guy? Those scenes in his office.
Jeff Daniels, yeah.
I could literally see Bruce Willis doing those scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like Bruce Willis liked.
Right.
Was doing it, which is
with
the
hair.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the point. What did you, so overall you liked it? I mean, I would have to say I like it because it's such a different kind of take on time travel, almost like 12 Monkeys, But 12 Monkeys is so much better and so much better written. This has such issues with some of the time travel paradoxes and the logic, that they get into.
Right.
Even so much so that once they start asking those questions, Willis's character, or Joe, old Joe, I guess we should call him, his response is, "It doesn't matter. I don't want to get into time travel stuff with you." And I'm like, okay, so that's your explanation? Really? That's your excuse for all these issues? So,
I like the movie. It's got not to get back on Cameron, but it's got the flavor of the original Terminator, in that it doesn't seem overly expensive, and it seems a little gritty, especially with the opening and the sequence where someone just pops into frame and all of a sudden they shoot them. I was like, damn, that's pretty brutal, but it's not like a remarkable special effect by any means. It's Bewitched, or the guy from Star Trek that we were making fun of a few weeks ago, Trelane. He basically, a guy pops into frame and he's bound and hooded, and they shoot him, and then there's silver on his back, and that's how they're paid, which is, of course, a key as far as like biblical, Judas being paid silver or whatever.
Yeah, my key was going to actually be pirates too. It's pirate doubloons sort of thing. It's their stash and their gold. That was a key that I got in this. Yeah, I mean, well, before we jump into cast and all that kind of stuff, let's just talk story for to begin with. The logic of, I have time travel, but I'm going to use it just to get rid of bodies, seems a little ludicrous to begin with. I understand that, people are afraid of it. It's heavily governed. Of course it would be, because you don't want people going back and changing the timeline or creating multiverses or whatever could happen. But criminals get a hold of it, and instead of going back and a year and predicting the World Series and earning all this money, or killing off your drug rival in the past, you just use it to dispose of bodies. That's all you do. Your Gat men just push people in and throw them in the past.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you have this entire Looper group in the past that has to kill people. And then dispose of the body, and then get rid of it there and do all of that. It just seems it's kind of a ludicrous principle, but you kind of buy it from the beginning, like you said, because I think the hook does work. The whole cornfield boom blast,
Yeah, so it's very fast and stark.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it kind of has to be, because, they don't want them conversing, and they definitely don't want somebody loose in the past. Who knows the future? That's a bad thing. But then they set up with his friend that when your loop is closed, we send you back and you kill you. And I was thinking, okay, a good way to not prevent any mistakes on that is don't send it to that looper. Give it to a different looper.
I kind of thought that too.
But instead, no, you have to kill yourself, and there's no irony to it. If it was punishment, maybe, but there's no irony to it. It's done like it's a poetic justice kind of thing. And I think they could have just tweaked that a little bit and instead made it a punishment. If you dick the gang, they send you back to you and you kill yourself. And that's what makes it even worse. Almost like what ends up happening to Willis or to old Joe. They send him back to be killed, was kind of the thing.
Yeah, some of the writing, I think what we're going to boil this down to, and the more I talk about it with you, is that there's lots of problems with the writing. I had heard great things about this movie, so I was a little bit disappointed when I watched it because it was not as great as I thought it could be. And now that I look, Rian Johnson was the writer as well, so he only has himself to blame. It sounds like he trades visuals for story. Like he seeks impactful visuals over relevant story. Yeah. And I mean, for instance, it's obviously, I know why they did it, but the reason the silver is on his back is because they needed to figure out a way he wouldn't get shot. So he turned,
Agreed.
but I mean, that's kind of trite. You could have set something else up or come up with something a little more inventive,
Well, then, like 2 different times in the montage of this is what a looper is, my voiceover kind of thing, when he shoots somebody, he blows them off the tarp. And I was like, well, then why have a tarp in the first place? If you're going to blow them away. I mean, I don't understand. It makes no practical sense.
Well, and I can't remember. They refer to that gun as something. It's
a blunderbuss.
A blunderbuss.
Another reason why I was thinking pirate. That's another key for me because it was, that's their pieces of gold.
Yeah.
And pirates have blunderbusses.
Pirates.
Space pirates. Or time pirates. That's what they are. Time bandits. Ooh, could be a movie. No, never mind. But I mean, and just some weird little stuff that didn't really make sense to me. I mean, I thought the whole one gag that I did like from Rerack. Yes, I agree with you. I think he has a visual idea and says this will work. Oh, well, that doesn't make sense in the script. Who cares? They'll buy it. I don't care.
Right.
That kind of thing. Even
That's
down to having his
though.
characters say that. Yeah, I totally agree with you. But like little things that don't make sense to me that bother me, like the setup for young Joe in the first scene of old Joe is he's late because he keeps looking at his watch.
Right.
It said 11:30. He's supposed to be there. Well, he's not there at 11:30, and then suddenly he appears. He's not hooded. He's not bound, and he's him. So that's different and unusual. Okay. And then they do that entire thing of 1 year later, 5 years later, 10 years, show his entire life for like 20 more years, 30 more years, whatever.
Right.
Until his wife's killed, he's kidnapped, and then we don't know what happens until we have another flashback story later on. But basically, he gets caught. He ends up fighting the Gap Men, sending himself back so that he could hopefully stop everything and stop the Rain Man. Okay. Being late in the future doesn't make you late in the present. If you're supposed to be there at 11:30, it doesn't matter if you take 3 freaking hours, 3 freaking days in the future, you'll still be there at 11:30. So you won't be thrown off by time in another time. Does that make sense? That was the first one that really threw me. I was going, okay, why? He wouldn't be late. You can't be late. You're supposed to be there at 11:30. You were there at 11:30.
Right. We should have invited Wendell in on this one. I would love to hear some of his because he's probably got a million of them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I mean, that was a kind of a segue to say the one that does work for me is the whole thing about scarring yourself so it becomes a scar to your older self, and now they have a message. That was really a cool idea, but not very practical.
No, not especially when it's a big message.
Well, and in general too, it really threw me off about the loops because they do it first with his friend Sam or Spade or Bobby or whomever, his friend who has himself, Seth, who essentially lets himself live. Well, then he says, Abe, the bad guy, says, call in the doctor. So obviously they're going to start torturing young Seth so that old Seth will come in and they can close his loop. Okay? But killing or dismembering or hurting young self does hurt old self because we're still in that same timeline. But once you kill him, they'll both be gone. And anything that Seth did in his looper years would be gone.
Right. It's like that's the paradox. I'm saying that anytime somebody dies, it's going to alter everything. So I really have no idea what this movie is supposed to say.
Agreed. There is no thematic to the end.
The more we talk about it, the madder I get.
Well, it's true because there is no real true thematic to it. There's no learning in it. There's no because in a minute we're going to get to the ending. But
and why did old Seth start disintegrating?
Because young Seth, they
Seth.
had the doctor with him, so he first cut him on the arm and said, "Be at this address," which means for old Seth, it would become a scar.
Oh, okay.
So he suddenly discovers the scar.
The scar rises, yeah.
He realizes that a finger is missing because they are cutting pieces off of this guy until he gets there. But what they're doing is also changing the future.
Yeah, big time.
Right.
All for the look of a weird monster without a nose or whatever. Yeah. I mean,
and for the whole, this is the way the mob works. Well, first of all, why? Because any hits, jobs, whatever that Seth does, young Seth does until he becomes old Seth, are now gone. Because he has no fingers, he has no legs, he has no nose.
Okay, now I'm seeing the pitch. I've got this mafia sci-fi idea.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Let's do it. Let's cross those genres.
And it's not even mafia so much as it is more like Breaking Bad. You know, it's like a weird bad gang kind of thing. And trying to make it this retro look in all the vehicles and in the modern day is very homeless and retro-y and weird, but still with skyscrapers. And it was just, there's certain things that don't work. And then you get to the whole ending, which literally makes no sense.
Oh.
As a time travel paradox, the ending is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically because old Joe comes back to stop the Rain Man. Young Joe realizes after he's killed, after he realizes that the little kid, whatever his name was, I cannot remember now, I repressed it.
I have it somewhere.
Is going to grow up to be the Rain Man.
Oh, no,
and
maybe I don't have it.
The thing that makes him the mean Rain Man is old Joe killed his mommy. Right? So to prevent old Joe from killing his mommy, young Joe kills himself. Right? That's a neat idea. It's not a bad idea, totally. I realized the only way to prevent him from doing it is to kill myself because then he would go away.
How can we end this movie and have a climax?
He does. He blinks out of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From the minute he blinks out of existence and young Joe dies, everything should change because he never came back, which means he never shot the kid in the jaw, which means there was never a truckload of gold, which means there was never a heist. There was never running. None of that happened.
Yeah.
Yet, according to Rian Johnson, it can because who cares? It's time travel. I'm just telling my story.
Well, and there's also, if we go back to old time travel stories, there was always a problem with with meeting yourself.
Well, yeah, that's a quantum physics problem, basically, which is you cannot exist in the same time frame as yourself.
Right. So I as soon as that was happening, I was like, okay, he's already breaking some kind of rule because I've always heard that.
Yeah, he did that from the very beginning and even explained it by that weird Bruce Willis line about, I remember your thoughts after you do them. Or I remember what you do after you do it. It's like, what? And then later on when he first falls in love with her, which I could totally understand. I love Emily Blunt. I mean, she's
great.
Great. But, he's going, no, I still want to be in love with my little Japanese lady. I still want to be in love with my Japanese lady. Looking at his watch, until it finally comes back to him. I was going, okay, some of this could have had potential, but
I thought that he was losing his memories. I didn't realize that may have been the reason.
He was.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. He was losing his memories because young Joe saw her and was like attracted to her.
Okay.
Falling in love with her. So, yeah.
When I started to watch this movie, I invite Dennis to watch most of these movies with me, and most of the time he says no. And I said, I'm watching one today. It's not scary. It's a time travel movie with Bruce Willis. Do you want to watch it? And he said, no. And then when I got done, I saw him and he said, how was it? I said, you would have hated it and my head hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. Once they get to the final little section, I was like, really? I even wrote it. Here's my notes, what I wrote down. Huge, uncomfortable paradox at the end. Saving Sarah makes Sid good, which means he doesn't turn into the Rainmaker, which means Joe's wife isn't dead, which means the whole movie is basically pointless because nothing
Joe's
happened.
Yeah.
Joe is not there. So actually killing himself would have altered everything. Sarah and Sid would not remember him at all. There would be no cheek shot. There would be no gold. There would be no money. None of that would ever happen. You know, because she repairs Sid and then she goes back to the road, which great that nobody drove down this road in the past 2 hours. But, and the little truck turned over was full of silver. You know, so I'm assuming that's what made Rainmaker or Sid a wealthy man.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because they have the money now. The more, like I said, the more we talk about it, the more I don't like it.
It's kind of the way Rian Johnson's movies are in general. You know, you can sit there and go, ooh, there's a cool lightsaber battle in Last Jedi. Yeah, but it makes no sense.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Well, and I tend to like the worst of Bruce Willis's movies because I think he's hot. But this is like The Color of Night. It's like, yeah, there's some cool naked people up on the screen, but there's really nothing else. And that's it.
There you go. There you go. Even the action sequences, you know, they don't even show the villain, Abe, get killed. You know, they just turn Bruce into Terminator and he gets to play Schwarzenegger.
Building just, blasting everybody. Yeah, it's Die Hard all over again, really.
Oh, yeah. Once he shows him the map in the diner, it suddenly becomes Terminator. That's all it is. It's Terminator. He's come back to kill a kid so the kid does not become the bad guy in the future. And that's basically it. You know, and even down to, instead of the gunfight at the police station, it's the gunfight at the bad guy's headquarters.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that they didn't want to focus on that when advertising it. They wanted to make it look like a sci-fi action thriller, so they didn't show any scenes of the kid or Emily Blunt in it.
Correct.
Or the farm.
They wanted that to be a surprise. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also read that Emily Blunt read half the script and took the part immediately, saying how great it was. And now I have less respect for her.
Well, her part was great.
Her part was good. But
because we haven't even touched on the whole, and by the way, let's just throw in some telekinesis for no damn reason. Let's just throw that crap in there because we need it at the very end so that this little kid can become intimidating.
Oh, and I just realized that's why they call it TK.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until you said the word telekinesis.
What were you doing, floating quarters? I mean, come on. And really, I could,
Okay, we're going to trash this movie. Fuck this movie.
Nothing says a great conversation after, nothing says great sex like the woman then going into a very heartfelt story after it while she has a cigarette. It's like, okay, sorry to ruin your life, I guess. I don't know. That was weird. That was just, that one didn't work for me at all. Well, the whole suddenly I'm going to have sex with this guy. But of course, then again, doesn't work in Terminator either. So same kind of key for me. Kyle.
In Terminator, it was to create John Connor.
Yeah, it's the paradox of John Connor.
The paradox. Another paradox.
Yeah, because if Kyle hadn't gone back, if John hadn't sent Kyle back, he wouldn't have a daddy. But then you're my daddy? But where did I come from? From you?
We're going to have to do 12 Monkeys because I don't remember paradoxes in that movie that made me mad.
No, because it's intentionally set up from the beginning that the rules are established. You and I have talked before. I don't care if it's a novel, a play, a movie, whatever. If you set your rules up to begin with, then the rules are what they are. And you can modify those. You can have your own rules. You can say vampires can come out during the day and justify it as long as then you do it for the rest of your movie. But don't then suddenly change it and have daylight kill somebody at the end because it would be cool.
Or make them sparkle and play baseball.
Oh my God.
No.
But you know what I mean? We've always said, establish your rules of your universe. You can do whatever you want, but don't then change your rules.
Well, and I'm just touching on 12 Monkeys again. I think Terry Gilliam's a much more intelligent director, and he would not want to insult you, or he would be concerned for insulting you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I think from a story perspective, I kind of disagree with you on the directing perspective, because Terry Gilliam is also really wild and bizarre in his production design.
He is.
And wants to just be as out there crazy as he can, stretching the face or doing whatever,
Right.
all that kind of stuff from Brazil. Yeah. And you're like, I don't know if that's kind of throwing me out of your story.
Yeah, I don't like all of his movies, but the ones I like, I really like. And they're not insulting at all. I mean, Time Bandits is a good movie, and I think 12 Monkeys is a good movie. I'm not a big fan of Brazil.
Yes.
I never was. So
yeah. I agree. How do we want to approach this? Because it really, man.
Talk about cast. I don't have a lot.
Okay, let's do cast.
I love Bruce Willis. I think he's great. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt was amazing as a young Bruce Willis. I thought he was unbelievably good. It made me have so much respect for him. And like you said, I like Emily Blunt. As Sarah, she's fine. But she's just a good actress. I've liked her ever since I saw her in Devil Wears Prada, because I love the character, because I had read that book, and when I saw she was playing it, I paid attention to her ever since. Seth, I could care less about. He sets up the premise of, the accidental not closing the loop. The one character I hated the most, and I don't know a lot of these people, and I don't have alternate castings, because I think Ryan went in knowing who he wanted to be in this movie. But I hate the Kid Blue character. Can't stand him.
Oh yeah.
Just want to kill him. And it doesn't end. And Jeff is supposed to be this. Jeff plays Abe, Jeff Daniels, who's a great actor. He's supposed to be this big mafia guy that's going to cut a guy's fingers and nose off, and yet he lets this guy slide all the time. Time.
Yeah.
Like,
and when I got
related?
I got the impression. Yeah, although I don't think it's ever said in the script, I kind of got the impression that that was his nephew or something, or an illegitimate kid that he had or something.
Yeah, well, so even Tony Soprano killed family.
Oh, I know. And you should have killed this doofus in like the first 2 minutes, or let Gordon-Levitt do it.
Yeah.
And ascend up the throne or whatever. I mean, I didn't mind his whole mobster feel, look, even down to the Gap men wearing the big flat hats and all that. That was kind of like, but the one thing I got from that was that Stephen King thing with the yellow coats that I always think about, the
low men in yellow coats.
Yeah. The guys, the time travel guys that come in and mess with you. And that's what the Gap men.
I think they are time travel. It's more interdimensional. And they have like rat faces and hats that kind of cover their faces. And they're kind of like the interdimensional. They're not really police. They're more like mafia. They're like, they just make sure things go the way they want it to go. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. And it would have been interesting to see something similar to police in this somewhere. One person, something, maybe even Abe paying somebody off or something. But I thought Jeff Daniels did great in this. I like seeing him play a bad guy.
A bad guy. Yeah. I've never seen it before. I was like, this is interesting. Something that was not interesting to me was Susie, that character. I was like, why is she in this? Is it just to show that he has a drug habit?
The hooker?
Yeah. Or do they just want to show another one of Bruce's loves in his infinite life?
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought that was thrown in from a writing perspective. Hooker with a heart of gold again, sort of thing, even though she doesn't turn out to be a heart of gold, but she does have a kid. And Bruce Willis has to kill her.
And then there's a couple of other characters. We mentioned Old Joe's wife. She's a really pretty Asian actress named King Zhu, maybe. It's Qingxu, Anyway, there's Beatrice and Old Seth. I thought Old Seth was really well cast. I thought they looked a lot alike.
Yeah, that was good casting. I agree with that one.
But then my only other casting note is that Jesse, the guy they send in at the end, is Garrett Dillahunt, and he is an actor that I really, really like. But they, don't really utilize him that well.
But he's great in both of those scenes. He's great
He
in
is.
both of the scenes he's in. He's really good. They don't explain Sid's condition, really. I mean, he tries to put all these fake hoops and hooks in it, like, oh, when Seth gets hurt, I'm going to run and hide in a safe. And you're going, what is she doing? I don't understand, and it's all because, when he gets mad, he can't control it. Okay. Why is falling down the stairs going to make him get mad? Is it because he got hurt? And he didn't get hurt, obviously, because, it just doesn't hold up to the logic of the storytelling. But that character, Jesse, I really liked. I wish I'd seen Jesse in the first scene. I would have had him be one of the ones that actually picked up young Joe. I think that would have been cooler, rather than Midnight Blue or whatever his name, Captain Blue, stupid guy, kid. Whatever.
Young Blue? Or no, wait.
Nephew. Elijah Blue. No, whatever.
Kid Blue.
Kid Blue, yeah. I think if Jesse had been one of those, and maybe they play off each other, God, you're stupid and I'm really cool, would have been cool to at least establish Jesse a little bit sooner. Because I do like the scene where he's going, he's a good guy, he does his job really well, he won't hurt your mom, that sort of thing. That was nice, but then we just literally blew him into pieces.
Right. But anyway, Garrett Dillahunt, the first time I ever saw him was in the remake of Last House on the Left with the guy you don't like from Breaking Bad that played Jesse in.
Oh, yeah, no.
I can't think of his
Aaron
name.
Paul.
Anyway, they're the bad guys. He and Garrett Dillahunt are the bad guys in the new Last House on the Left remake, which is no longer new. Anyway, that's the first time I saw him. Then I watched Raising Hope because I liked that guy. He's the guy that did that Earl series. I can't remember the name of it. And he had a comic part in that, and he's great in it with Martha Plimpton. And then he went on to be the best character on Fear the Walking Dead, John Dory. So I've liked him in a lot of stuff, but he still can't save this movie. So
No.
they don't use him that much.
Nope.
So that's all I have on cast.
Okay.
We can move to some trivia or keys or
yeah, both. Let's do both. I mean,
Okay.
One of the I will say one outstanding thing, and I think I said it earlier, but the makeup is very good on Gordon-Levitt, and the fact that that was a Freddy Krueger process. It was 3.5, 4 hours a day to do that to him, to give him the eyebrows and the lip, shrink his lip and everything to be like Willis. And it looks really good in every scene. There's a couple where you have to get used to it because the eyebrows are not as expressive, I think.
I thought that the lip looked a little fake at times, but yeah.
Yeah.
Or like it maybe had too much lipstick on it.
Yeah. And I do think it was commendable, to try to do it practically rather than CGI or just let it go or whatever. So I did like that.
Yeah.
One of my biggest key things is Emily Blunt. If you like Emily Blunt in time travel stories, she actually did Adjustment Bureau before this movie. And I haven't seen it in a while, so I may have to rescind my opinion right now. But from what I remember, that was a really good movie.
I don't know anything about it.
It was Matt Damon instead of Joseph Gordon-Levitt and her, and basically it's set in a future where you send back essentially assassins, but they're more political. They come back to help change the course of events, and they do it on purpose, sort of thing. They're like the CIA. They're called the Adjustment Bureau, and Matt Damon is one to send back to kill her because she's going to have an affair with a congressman. It's going to be bad. And instead he falls in love with her. So it's that typical, do I do my duty and reset history, or do I let her live and change all history, sort of thing. And it's pretty good from what I remember. And both of them are really good. Matt Damon and her both are good in it. So that would be a key for me, is much better time travel story and done a few years earlier. So,
I guess the reason, I mentioned earlier that there were no other alternative castings that I was aware of in this movie, because he potentially, I guess, handpicked who he wanted. Apparently, he had worked with Joseph Gordon-Levitt twice before in a movie called Brick, and a cameo in a movie called The Brothers Bloom as a bar patron. So Ryan and Mr. Levitt go back a ways. And I also mentioned that Blunt agreed to star in the movie after reading half the script. Apparently, she read the first half because she said she didn't even know what her character was. I'm like, what? Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? That would kind of be the point.
I mean, I haven't acted in a very long time, but if someone sent me a script, I would want to know what it is I'm playing.
Maybe she just liked the time travel premise, since she'd done, Adjustment Bureau anyway or something.
Right.
I don't know. That's interesting.
And then one funny thing I found, and I thought this was kind of charming, in the scene where young Joe that is, falls off the fire escape. That was filmed on Gordon-Levitt's 30th birthday, and they left him hanging there with the stunt wires while the crew sang Happy Birthday and brought out a cake.
Okay. Nice touch.
That's a cute thing. So,
yeah, that's not bad.
No. I don't have a lot of keys. I have some that are inevitable because of the cast. Obviously, Bruce Willis has been in other time travel movie. We mentioned 12 Monkeys, which I know well, but apparently there's some time travel in a movie he did called The Kid. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
A Disney movie or something?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know anything about that. And then you mentioned Emily Blunt being in the Adjustment Bureau, and I had that as well. And she was also in a movie called Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. Yes, that's the one with your favorite, Mr. I Like to Run, Tom Cruise.
Oh.
Yeah.
No wonder I don't know what it is.
It's actually, as a time travel movie, if you could ignore Cruise and watch it, same way I have to ignore Keanu, the premise of that is really good. Basically, he has to keep reliving this incident over and over and over and over again. It's until he learns how to change it and change history. Because he forgets when he comes back. I mean, when they send him back, he's
not Bill Murray.
No. Right. So he has to be retrained each time they send him back. And things keep happening like in time travel stories that they do. So, you didn't plan on this, got to do this now, sort of thing. And she's basically his handler in the future. So both of them are really good. And I like Cruise in that one. I think he's good in that one.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
But
I don't really have any other keys, but I feel like we've been tossing keys out the whole time because of the fact that it's a time travel movie and because of the fact that it's a mafia-esque type movie, if that's an adjective. And I don't know.
I mean, it's not the first movie to ever have, time traveling assassins. That's kind of a gimmick in time travel in general, is you send them back to kill people. Yeah, to eliminate and to change. It's because I think it comes from that old existential question of that you hear about in college a lot, which is, okay, if you did have time travel, would you go send somebody back to kill Hitler as a boy and stop all the pain and suffering and everything he did?
Okay.
That's the big existential time travel question. Would you go back and save Jesus on the cross? Would you go back and rewrite history in those ways? Kind of thing. And it's not necessarily that that's a good thing. And the fun of a time travel story is you don't know what to predict. You can't say once you start changing history what it's going to change.
Right. I know I have a key I can recommend that, especially since you were talking about movies where they do go back to change things or assassinate people. And I started the podcast off with Stephen King. I might as well close it. He wrote a book called 11/22/63 that is about a man that has the opportunity, and it's not real hi-fi tech. It's just a weird loop in time where he can go back and possibly prevent the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Hulu made a series out of this with James Franco, and it is really good. I don't recall any weird paradoxes, but he does go back one time and he screws it up. So he has to go back again, and he can't go back, but only to the exact same time. So he has to relive the entire 4 years again. That's kind of cool. And of course there's a love interest, which makes it even more special. So it's a really good show. I think you would like it.
Yeah, I'll try it. I mean, there have been great time travel, stories. I mean, even the simplest of them, Back to the Future is still good time travel. And all three movies basically work, and they set themselves up very well. Avengers Endgame is time travel. We talked about Edge of Tomorrow. I think
Star Trek's done it.
Yeah. Well, they've done it in the series a lot, but I think the movie was Voyage Home. That's the one where they went back. Planet of the Apes, time travel.
That's great. Love that movie.
But this is, the key to this one is definitely this is Terminator. This is Terminator all the way through, because you're trying to kill one particular individual.
But Terminator was good. I didn't hate Terminator like I'm starting to hate this movie.
No, because they kind of held, except for the major paradox of the boy, everything basically works in it. And it's very focused and simplistic. It's not trying to make this huge worldview like this one is.
Well, it is. It's a smaller world with less characters. Yeah, which is why that's why I write about them. There's less chance for mistakes when you write about a few people.
A question, and one that just intrigued me, would you think, because we reviewed this, we did this on the podcast, do you think Arrival is a time travel story?
It is.
Or is it just a story, or is it a story told out of time? You know what I mean?
Well, I think the narrative goes straight forward until you realize that she's not in time. She's on different loops, from what I remember.
No, remember, you think the entire thing is actually telling the story linearly, but instead it's all a flashback. It's all, the whole thing is a flash forward. Yes. Okay. You're thinking that she's upset because her daughter is dying. Her daughter died of cancer.
Right.
But she didn't. She hasn't even been born yet.
Right. So
and she knows that. And she knows when she has her, she will die that way.
No, I like that movie. I think that movie did it well.
I think there's a difference between, when you get into time travel stories, there's a difference between a non-linear storytelling along a person's life, whether you do flashbacks or flash forwards, almost like Lost did and other stories have done. Westworld does that, even though people say it's a different timeline. No, it's not a different timeline. It's the same timeline. You're just getting different pieces of it out of order.
Right.
You're jumping from here to here to here
Non-linear.
to here.
Yeah.
And that's different than a time travel story where everything you do suddenly branches the timeline into different story arcs, he basically says from the very beginning, I'm going to throw all those basic time travel stories, loops out the window.
And again, that's what that's boils it down to what I don't like about it. If you want to paint it in broad strokes, it's that he sacrifices story for visual, and I'm a story guy.
Yep.
So I can't handle that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would much rather see a much more simplistic, smaller story that makes sense and hinges well.
Right. And we already know he did the damn same thing with the Star Wars movie. So now I'm really skeptical about watching Knives Out.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious. My chip is definitely on the shoulder to watch Knives Out because I want to say, okay, I like the cast and I love murder mysteries. You better not screw this up, Johnson, because you have screwed up two others.
Thin ice, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Johnny Has the Keys is coming for you.
We are coming at you.
And don't forget it. So what do we rate this?
What do we rate it? I don't know.
I'm going to go back in time and give it a 3. No.
Yeah. There you go. Again, as time travel movies go, there's so many others that are better than this, but this is pretty well respected among the sci-fi world as a different take on it, a different look at time travel. So there you go.
Yeah. Time travel, blue collar time travel.
Yeah.
It's just not, that's not even the right description.
Time assassins, sort of thing. But okay, now I'm going to have, that's like the third time you've recommended that I read the Stephen King thing, so I may have to read it.
Which, are you talking about 1122?
Yeah.
The book's good too. The book's really good. It's more, the reason it's good is it's more of a love story.
And was it a movie or a series?
It's a series on Hulu. You can watch it if you have Hulu.
Okay.
It's got James Franco in it.
I can live with that, I guess.
He's good. He's good.
He's good.
I thought you were talking about the Let It, or If It Bleeds. I keep wanting to say Let It Bleed because of the Rolling Stones, but it's If It Bleeds.
Yeah.
It's.
I do need to read that though.
It's got a cat's
just for
face
Holly
on the cover. It's weird. It's like a black cat's face, but the nose looks like a rat. So
is Holly Gibney still the little white girl in the novel?
She is still a white girl in the novel, but I visualize her as Cynthia Erivo still. I see her
she was
as
so
Cynthia
good
Erivo.
in that. Yeah. As a matter of fact, all of you guys out there listening or watching, just don't watch Looper. Just watch The Outsider. It's good and it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll have 10 hours of it because it was a 10-episode show, I think.
Yeah. And it holds up all the way through.
All the way.
Yep. I mean, the ending is kind of Stephen King. It's kind of like, oh, we're done, kind of thing. But that's Stephen tends to do that.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna have Trash Can Man with a nuclear bomb. Here you go. Okay, cool.
I'm feeling nostalgic. This is like one of our older shows where we just don't know how to end it.
I know. We are just kind of blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But we can say, okay, we should thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for supporting us.
I'm so glad we've had this time.
All of you are Patreon members. Extra special thanks to you. And you guys get all kinds of goodies coming to you that are just for you. So we urge you guys, if you're not a Patreon member, please be at and help us keep this going.
Yeah, and that's going more video as well. We're now doing Dilithium Chamber episodes in video, so that's coming.
So you have some more stuff coming to you there. And thank you all. Subscribe, like, let us know what you think. We love to hear from you. Comments, email, everything.
Especially film suggestions because we're always up.
Yeah. We'd love to do one. All right, Tim. I guess I'll catch you next time, and we'll be probably in your horror world.
Sounds like a plan. I can't remember what it.
I'll lean this way so the zombie show.
Actually, it's a double feature.
Ooh. Okay. All right. So all of you guys, we'll see you next week.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.
start the car. Johnny has the keys.